Hello and welcome. And I'm really excited about today's College Coaches Corner. And this is because very few times am I able to speak with a true baseball man as it relates to college athletics. And today we're going to talk to former pitching coach at University of Alabama, current head coach at University of New Orleans, Dax Norris. And Dax, I am super excited to chat with you here today.
Oh, same here, Walter. It's an honor and to be on here talking to you, and like you said, talking to a good baseball man. So I'm very excited.
Well, Coach, I want to start at the very beginning. When we start talking about college and college baseball, and we get all caught up in the P4, and, a lot of parents and athletes, they don't go back to, that late 1990, early 2000s. And when I think back to the days of college baseball during that era, UNO was one of the schools, with regard to Wally Whitehurst and Jimmy Bullinger. And I mean, it was an absolute epicenter of college baseball with LSU, Tulane, and UNO. All three of those schools were college World Series types of caliber teams. Then we had Katrina. So can you tell us now, what makes a UNO such a great opportunity academically? And then athletically, it's a college city, and it's something that you're looking to bring back that prominence with regard to UNO baseball.
Yeah, exactly right. I think like we talked about, the average ACT to get in is like 25, and it's a very good academic school, and it's the tuition is not as much. So there's obviously that helps a lot. Dealing with that with the scholarship money, but also the like I said, the history, the tradition here. Our playing field is probably the nicest in the league, and the setting of New Orleans, a great place, a culture, so many different stuff that you can do here, and that's I know they were rolling. I remember as a player, here in New Orleans all the time, and then obviously I think I was playing pro ball when Katrina hit, and then getting here. Listening to everybody and seeing how after that it started. I guess other universities, around here, students started going there, and so that's what we're trying to get our students back in, and get the program back to the level that Bully and all those guys had it. So it's definitely a unique opportunity, or like I say, I wouldn't be here and and selling this thing here.
Well, I want parents to understand not only does Coach Norris have a professional background, but he's been a coach at some very prominent programs, and I want you to talk a little bit about Dax. It's not the academic institution that makes the athlete; it's the athlete that makes the academic athletic program. The athletes are what make the program run, and so, in your opinion, what type of athletes do you want to go after now to really wrap themselves and embrace bringing the UNO program back to national prominence?
Well, I think it's those. I go like to the one who was our main guy, Bryce Calloway. He was from here. He went to UL, started there, and then went to junior college. But a guy that's resilient. The makeup was off the chart, and guys that are we talk about blue collar grinders all the time, and that's really what it is. And kind of like what we talked about building off, like with the city, it seems to always, it survives. It's resilient here, and no matter what happens, no matter the hurricanes or whatever we go through, and obviously with UNO, we talked about earlier, getting close to being, well, I guess D3 at one time, and then surviving that. So that's that along those lines as an athlete that we're looking for. A guy's going to come in that has the right makeup, that works and understands what this is about. And for the team that we had last year, it was a symbol of what of how our teams want to be and the guys that we want. Obviously, you want the good academic kid, but too, like I say, our job is to bring the guys in here that can help us win a Southland Conference championship, and those are more so blue collar, get in your face, grind it out type guys. And I always say the team takes on their leadership, and that's kind of that's the way I've always been to survive it and keep grinding through it. And that's the players I want playing for me. That no matter what happens, we still gonna put ourselves in a position to win.
I want parents to know I lived in greater New Orleans for 7 years, right outside of Metairie, Louisiana, which is kind of in close proximity to the lakefront where UNO is located. And I want to let parents know you may not think this is the case, but greater New Orleans is a tremendous college environment. You have Loyola, you have
Yes.
Tulane, you have UNO, right up the road. You have a lot of Southern Miss, obviously, the school in purple and gold. So this is a very vibrant area, very full of culture. And I would love for you to share the area in and around the New Orleans campus, Tulane, those types of areas, Canal Street and the rail cars. It's a beautiful major metropolitan city that offers athletes an area to grow, not only athletically and academically, but
Yeah.
culturally as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a huge part of it. I go back to pro ball and getting into coaching. What helps you a lot is you understand the different cultures. You understand the different where the kids come from. They grew up at a different place, so you understand that. You understand their culture. Where if you hadn't been out and experienced that, it's tough. It can be tough on you sometimes when you're coaching kids. But that's the same thing like you talk about with New Orleans. There's so many things that you can experience, and it really is. It's a great place. We live in Eden Isles, 20 minutes north in Slidell, and I'm out here looking at boats going by left and right, going fishing every day. Well, I mean, every kid loves to fish, pretty much. So we talk about that. Then you can go down to the city and just the Smoothie King Center, all the stuff that's around it, the Saints. So it's a lot of stuff for kids to do, but also have the college atmosphere too. And it's like we talk about any other place. Sometimes we'll get they're gonna get in trouble down on Bourbon Street. I'm like, you know what? Kids can get in trouble. If they want to get in trouble, they can get in trouble in LaGrange, Georgia. Where I'm from, and it's a small town. So, but we want them to experience all that, and I know our players take advantage of it. They go down and see all that and really have a great experience. And I think that's something that maybe this area does not get enough pub about of how good it is, like you were saying. And there's so much stuff to do, and it's obviously with Tulane, Loyola, and everybody around, Southeastern up here, a lot of good programs around here, and there's a lot of good baseball, as evident by everybody's record and the fight towards the end of the year.
And I want parents to understand one of the best things. I have a lot of student athletes that I've worked with in the past that are now at Tulane or they're at Southeastern, which is in Hammond, Louisiana, which is probably a 45-minute ride from UNO up I-10 and I-55. This is a really, truly special area of the country. The people in the community embrace the athletes. They embrace
Yeah.
the athletic programs. They immerse themselves as fans, and they really are a special type of community kind of vibe and feel. And I encourage you, if you're looking at schools, visit the UNO campus, visit New
Mhm.
Orleans, visit that whole area in and around the campus, and I think you'll find that it's a really special place. One of the things that I think UNO, it's really, and I have had athletes that have played at UNO. Darren Willis was a Rummel student athlete.
Yeah.
The not only your conference, which I want to get to in a second, but your out of conference games LSU, Tulane. I mean, there's a lot of excitement, that you generate not only at your stadium, which is a beautiful stadium, as you alluded to, but going over to Tulane and playing there. Talk a little bit about your out of conference schedule and, how that really helps your program with regard to those athletes that feel like, man, I really want to play against LSU in the box or Tulane at Turchin. Talk a little bit about your out of conference schedule.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's built off, what Blake had done with the scheduling of, make sure, that we keep those guys scheduled. Like LSU, Tulane, the Pelican Cup. You hear about it, then once you in here and see it, that's a huge deal. And we went 2-0 this year and got the cup back, and that's what I was telling our guys, that the rival there going to their stadium and winning it there, which they won it at our place last year. So it's a very good rivalry, and that's something, like I say, going to play Tulane, who who's when you talk about Tulane, they've always been very good, and these guys, they want to, they feel like they, maybe have a little bit of edge on us, and they want to go prove themselves. So that's, being able to go play in a stadium like that, LSU, and we go to Oklahoma 2 years ago, I think 3 years ago, and then Boston College. So we still play, make sure we still playing the top teams that we can, and that's huge for recruiting. You can go, hey, well, we go play LSU, at the box, and of course everybody's gonna go, yeah, that's a big deal, and it really is. I remember walking out the field when they waxed us pretty good the last time, and guys are taking pictures, and you're like, they never get the chance to do that again. Where that, to me, that's important, and that's something that we want to continue to build on, but also too, they have our respect. Those teams, those out of conference, I remember, like I say, we went to Oklahoma and won 2 out of 3 there. So, and just to get the experience, and I think that team went to the national championship
Yeah,
game. So,
championship. Yep.
but in the future, I also want to try to, hey, go to, try to talk with Bianco and go to Ole Miss one game. I think Blake has done it before, but it's, now maybe go to Alabama, go back to my alma mater and play a 3-game series or a midweek game. So, and I think when we do that, when we call, we have, we can have a chance to really schedule those games, and it's just a matter of on conference weekends and all that. But our non-conference schedule has been good, and I think that's very enticing. Like you talk about with a recruit, when you talk about going to those places, you go, they get to experience that too, and then not only a good Southland Conference. So it's definitely has been on the up and up.
Before I go down that path with the Southland Conference, I want to let parents know everything that you need to know about not only the historic past and pageantry of UNO baseball, but also all of the contact information for not only Coach Norris, but staff, prospect camps, all available on the Baseball Blue Book app. I really encourage parents and athletes, go ahead, take get a profile on the Blue Book app, but more importantly, take a good hard look at UNO, because academically and athletically, it really puts you on a great path, not only from a baseball perspective, but as a professional with regard to your future family and future employee or employer. UNO degree is held in high regard. Dax, you mentioned Alabama, and you mentioned, you are, as a pitching coach, I want to start there.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, to parents of pitchers, of which I am one, talk about what does it take to make that jump from high school to college, and I know you understand this, but I don't think parents understand strike zones shrink, two
Yeah.
one, 3-1s, being able to throw your secondaries in, plus counts. Talk a little bit about what you're looking at from a physical maturity and mental maturity perspective of someone you'd like to recruit as a pitcher.
Yeah, and I think that's very, very key. I don't think people understand, I don't how good you are once you get to you making that jump to D1. It's the same as a JUCO guy. and I would use Grant Edwards,
Right.
who
Yep.
just went in the portal, and he's with Georgia now. But he took the step from last year as a JUCO guy, running him out every Saturday. That he realized that obviously you got to hit your spots and all that, and it's constant. It's constant. Through the lineup 1 through 9 of you got to be on top of your game. His stuff was always good. Uh, so, and I knew like he had to go through that process because Walter he hadn't been through the process of seeing D1 hitters on a consistent basis. And nothing, no offense to JUCO or high school, where you don't have 1 through 9 that are stacked. Now that might be one, a couple, junior colleges that have 1 through 9, but usually that 7, 8, 9 you can rest a little bit, and here you can't do it, and so and he understood that. And we were talking about the mental side of it. I'm like, hey, Grant, you gonna make the jump. You got the stuff. The changeup's got to get better, but it's a work in progress, and we're gonna be patient. I'm gonna be patient with you, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that I see is parents or coaches are not patient enough. You know,
Bingo.
that, and that's and then it hurts the kid because he goes, the parents go, well, we need to just go somewhere else. There's a better pitching coach there. There's a better pitching coach there. And yeah, there may be, but the big picture of it is you got to have patience to let this develop. And as you know, it takes a while. It takes reps. It takes the mental side. It takes it all along with obviously having good stuff. So now fast forward to this year with Grant Edwards, total different guy. Changeup was 8 to 10 miles an hour off his fastball. And what I tell people all the time, he really didn't do anything different. He stayed on top of the ball more, but he stayed with the process. He stayed patient. And talking to him last night, it was tough because he wants to go see if he can do it in SEC. And I told him, I said, more power to you. I said, because I don't want you back here and then you're going, dang, if we're struggling a little bit, you go, damn, I could have been at Georgia right now playing against LSU. But, every kid wants to see that, but he's been patient through it. So I think that's the biggest jump parents have to understand. Like, let it play out. Let it play
Right.
out. I let him fail all the time. And my wife gets on to him and she goes, you get in there, teach him. I'm like, no. I said there'll be a time I'll teach him, and but he's got to fail, and that's what I think. That patience and understanding the jump. You got to let these kids fail, and as hard as it is, because you don't want to, because you care about the kid, but and for me to see guys prosper in this game is all right, what are you going to do when you hit that failure? How are you going to react? And that's why I knew this kid. He came back to work every day. He kept working. He kept working. And Walter, the last start he had at Houston Christian, he goes, D, I'm gonna play in the big leagues. As he's warming up, I said, I know you are. I said, but right now I need you to beat Houston Christian. So, but and I think that's probably really the patience of it, to the jump from understanding who your kid is, understanding that it's very rare for a freshman to go into any D1 program and play well, and especially for a pitcher. Now, I think too, where you have to go to a program that understands that and will let your kid develop and let your kid be patient, and that teaches that, and know there's going to be ups and downs, and that to me that's huge, and I think that's where we make the biggest mistake as coaches and as parents of like we want it right now. We want it right now, and obviously they're good enough to be in D1, but it's going to be some adjustments as you move forward, and that's the biggest thing I see.
So you hit a word, and I want, because there's not a better baseball man to discuss this with, because you know what this word means when it comes to development. We hear coaches talk about physicality, strength, speed, skill, resiliency. We do not talk enough about being able to be resilient during a 4, possibly 5 year college career. But resiliency is a critical foundational piece to be successful as a college athlete because, whether we want to measure 0 for 4 or walking 4 and giving up 5 earned, you know, you're going to have those tough moments and you need to flush and be resilient. Can you talk about the development of that mindset of mental maturity and resiliency and the importance for athletes to develop that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that goes back to like we talked about, when you talk about, I remember Blake asked me about the pitching and coming doing the pitching, and he goes, there's not a lot of good pitching coaches out there that understands all that side of it, and it really is. And I think the pro ball experience, helps me understand. And I know there's other guys out there that understand all that too. That's been on that side, and I think as a pro guy, you can see, but sometimes it'll get you in trouble too. Of that kid's got it, but he just needs to develop and all that. But having the resilience and all that with being a pitcher, then that's some of the qualities I look for, and that's something where I think it's construed now because in recruiting it's bam bam bam, so you don't get to have the talks like me and you having the talk right now of getting the feel okay of what happens when you go out Friday night and Missouri beats you 10-0. I go back to Logan Allen. How do you respond? The kid that we had at FIU, and
Right.
there was a kid there that same way. He kept working. He knew he was good, and boom, the second start was better, and then the rest is history from there. But that's something that I think you have to keep teaching. You have to be passionate about as coaches, and you try to put them in situations to understand. Talk about being resilient more. Talk about this is how you come back. This is how the next week, no matter how good the start was on Friday night, tomorrow's a new day. You got to go back to work, and uh, that's that's especially as a pitcher. I tell people Walter many times. I became a better coach when I started working with pitchers. On the coaching side, I always work with them. As a catcher, and I coach them that way. Same as when I called them. That they're there's that's the mental side of it, and uh, being able to come back from adversity, because you can go out there and have your best stuff, and you go out and give up 6 runs, and then you go, okay, what am I going to say to this kid right here who's throwing his glove in the dugout and he's pissed off because he had some good stuff that day. But that's the thing. I encourage like parents with younger pitchers, encourage them to understand they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail. So then I think learning that early on teaches them, to be resilient, to come back and that not, I'm not going to let anything happen to me, good or bad. I'm going on to the next pitch, and but that's huge. That stuff that you're talking about is huge, and the stuff obviously we look for in a pitcher. And when you have that, then you got a big league pitcher, future big leaguer.
So, 27 years as a catcher, just a sniff of pro ball. But, I talked to Dave Duncan, some of the
Mm.
best pitching coaches in the sport were catchers because we're able to talk to pitchers. We're able to
Mm.
communicate and we know what it looks on the other side. Pitchers always see things through their, windshield, I always say, but
Yeah,
I'm seeing things like it's a 3D movie. And so what if you could, you know, that's why I have two sons that are pitchers. I used to always say to my pitchers, and my sons, you got to change the frequency. Like if we're on the FM station, it ain't working. We got to go down a dial. We got to
yeah,
figure something out. Can you talk a little bit as from a catching perspective? When you're recruiting catchers, they have to be communicators, they have to be therapists, they have to be
yeah.
tough, hard-nosed guys. Talk a little bit about that. Being a catcher is more than catching a bullpen or just receiving a baseball. There's a lot that goes into catching at the Division 1 level, especially.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And over the years is like D1 baseball is. I mean, it reminds me now of being in Double A. There's so many good
Right.
players.
Right.
There's so many good coaches, and there's just a lot of communication that's going on back and forth. And as a catcher, yeah, that catcher has to be good. Obviously, like I say, when we go see them, that the talent's there. Now, what is his leadership skills? What does he do to help that pitcher? And we have one now that I love to death, and he was at La Tech, a kid named Carson Evans, and he understands that. And I want him to be more vocal out on the field, but he's helping those guys all the time, and he takes what we talk about in the bullpen and gives it to the pitchers. I give him clues. Hey, Edwards needs to stay close with his front shoulder. Where that these are the things to look for. We'll sit down and talk about it, and then that way you don't have to waste so many visits going to the mound and
Bingo.
stuff like that. So that's where the time, the game going longer. That's where it comes in. Is from all the timeouts or whatever. So, but Walter is huge. I mean, that catcher and pitcher relationship, for me, and I'd say probably for most people, it has to be a strong bond, and it has to be. I tell our catchers that guy on the mound is the most important thing at this point in time, and it's not about you. It's not about the coach. It's about that guy on the mound because he's controlling everything that's going on right now. Nothing can happen until he throws that pitch, and just teaching them along the way. That's why I love watching the leadership of like this year with him, coming in, and it's real tough to do nowadays because you get them for 1 year and then it's like they're gone again. Now you got to roll over to another guy. But just seeing how they work in between innings and that, that's what it's all about. And he'll come to me and go, "Hey, I think we need to get him out of here." And that's a big trust. And when my catcher tells me that, I'm going, "Okay, let's get somebody going." He goes, "Hey, coach, his stuff's not that good." So that's what I look for. I mean, and yeah, hey, if he can hit, it's a plus. If he can hit, but if he can run that staff and that staff trusts him, then that's you have the catcher that you want. And I'm a little bit different, Walter. Everybody says build a team with a pitcher. I say you build a team. My teams will be built with a guy behind the plate, and then I'm gonna go around after that. I mean, we'll go to the mound and then we'll go around to build it.
That's
So,
exactly. Have tried to tell parents, but respect the guy in the gear. When it's hot, he's dripping. He's dealing with umpires. He is your liaison, your consigliere with the umpires, with the pitchers, all kinds of stuff. Begins and ends with your catcher. So I'm so glad that you're giving us a kind of a thumbs up on that position. Parents, you've seen me speak with hundreds and hundreds of college coaches, and Dax and I go back a ways when he was, not only at FIU, but Alabama. And we go back a ways when I was living in New Orleans. There may not be a better baseball man, a better mentor of life. And I really want you to give a strong, hard look. We didn't get a chance to go into the Southland Conference. I'm going to do that next time I get to talk with Dax. The Southland Conference is an elite conference that goes under the radar, much like the
yeah.
CAA or the Sun Belt. And I want parents do a deep dive into the history of not only UNO, but Dax Norris. This man is a baseball man through and through. And during all the white noise that we see with the portal and all this other stuff, there's a silver lining, and it's in a great city, in a great conference with a great stadium, and it's University of New Orleans. Dax, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Walter, outstanding, and thank you for having me on. Look forward to being on again. And you're so right. With all this, it's still our job to mentor young men and help them grow as men, and that's something I think that gets lost nowadays. So thank you for the kind words, and I really. That's what I try to. I get up every day going, "All right, how are we going to help somebody today?" Whether it might be going to LSU in the portal, but that might be their best chance, and that's going to help them in the future. So That's what we're here to do, and we can win championships by doing that too. And that's what we
Listen
want to
to
do.
that last sentence that Coach Norris just said. That's the separator. A man that is always going to do what's in the best interest of his student athlete is the man you want around your student athlete. Dax, thank you, Captain.
Thank you, my man. Have a good
All
day.
right, man.